I'm rich in name only. In Job chapter 5, verse 9, it says, "He performs wonders that cannot be fathomed, miracles that cannot be counted." I'd like to share with you today my family's miracle story, and it comes directly from this book I wrote about my son. There's something wrong with his brain. Those were the words my wife shared with me on the telephone more than 17 years ago. Her doctor had called 2 days after a routine ultrasound to give her the bad news. Actually, there was a bunch of something's wrong with his brain. My wife bravely relayed the medical information to me, but of course, all I focused on was, there's something wrong with his brain? I tried to remain calm, reassuring, reminding her that people would pray, God was in control. But as soon as she hung up the telephone, I startled my coworkers with my sobbing. I was so overwhelmed, I couldn't talk. All I could get out was, there's something wrong with his brain. I was 38 years old, and this was my one chance to be a parent. My wife had already had one miscarriage, and the doctor told us it would be very difficult to conceive again. And then, miracle number one, we did. Now it seemed like it was all slipping away, but it didn't. It just got more difficult. Lots of things worth fighting for in life get more difficult. There were multiple ultrasounds, MRIs, heart monitorings, surgical consultations. They even had to see a specialist to discuss our options if we decided to end the pregnancy. Our son had more doctors than the entire state of Kansas, and he wasn't even born yet, and we weren't sure he ever would be. They told us he might not live, and if he lives, he might not walk, he might not talk, he might not crawl, and the list goes on and on. But now the rest of the story. 17 years ago, next month, after a long and arduous pregnancy, my beautiful wife gave birth to our son Parker, miracle number 2. And after a stint in the NICU came every miracle after that. Sitting up, crawling, feeding himself, walking, talking. The miracles became too numerous to mention. But I really should mention them. We live in a jaded world where people have stopped believing in miracles. I know God still does miracles. I have one living in my house.
Amen.
He calls me Dad. Maybe the reason we don't see miracles anymore is because after one tough phone call, we abort the miracle process. And when we do, it's because there's something wrong with our brain. Now, to be sure, life in the Sieber household is pretty chaotic. My son was born with 50% brain malformation, a brain cyst, cerebral palsy, developmental delay, and at the age of 3, he was diagnosed with autism. But I wrote this poem to remind myself not to complain when life gets difficult. Because if you know my son, he doesn't really complain about his challenges. He just makes things happen. I think of this as a Philippians 4:13 poem. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. When you think it can't be done, just remember my son, born with half a brain, a life destined for pain. They said he might not walk, and possibly not talk. We wondered, would he crawl, or ever throw a ball? But lots of people prayed. Daily progress he has made. And by the age of 6, he runs, he throws, he kicks. Don't tell me you can't do it. That there's too much to go through it. You haven't met my son. He's proof it can be done.